Yeah, there was after the influencers came. I mean, we saw a jump in sales. I want to say like 30% increase, which is which is great.
Welcome back, marketers. This is now part two of my interview with Gary and how he's using influencer marketing for his restaurants. If you missed part one, I will link it in the description below. Other than that, let's continue. What role do influencers play when you do outreach, especially in the beginning of the launch of a restaurant?
I think they play a pretty big role. I mean, marketing has shifted from, back in, let's say, the early 2000s, newspaper, TV ads. That's mostly TV ads and internet ads, random internet, Google AdWords. And it's slowly starting to shift towards influencers, more power to influencers. That's why you see so many influencers making a living off of, making videos and making posts for, sponsored content. And the reason for that is just a shift of, new social trends, I guess.
Yeah.
More millennials and Gen Zs are on their smartphones, social media, and that's majority of people spend their time instead of TV or, people don't really read newspapers on anymore unless it's online. So influencers have a huge, pretty much power, and it's very important to, utilize that in any industry, I want to say.
Are there specific types of influencers that you try to reach out to? And let me be more specific. For example, you have IG influencers, you have bloggers or food bloggers, you have YouTube vloggers as well. Are there specific types of influencers you try to reach out to?
Mostly Instagram influencers who have, really great organic traffic. It doesn't matter. The thing a lot of people have a perception on is that they look at just the followers, people's followers. Never look at the followers. Look at the engagements on each post. So, because like someone could have 200,000 followers, but their posts only get 100 likes. That's less than 0.01% of or I want to say 0.1% engagement rate. I'd rather have someone who only has 1,000 followers but has 500 engagements on their posts. So that's what we tend to look for when we reach out to influencers.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of bots out there. So I would agree about looking at their engagement, specifically their comments. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, comments, likes, and just reposts.
Do you use any specific tools when you're doing outreach?
No, just we just use our business accounts. Use a business account. We personally reach out to them and we offer them meal on us if they would like to come by and just do like a simple post about Gyuzo.
Okay.
And they most people accept and want to come try us out.
Okay, so compensation is typically just a free meal. You don't necessarily have to pay them. Is that how it typically works, or that's just how it works for you?
It depends for each restaurant. For us, we we're close with some of them. We build relationships. We're great people. They're hardworking, great people. And for Gyuzo, no, we haven't paid anything, just exchange for food. Especially since we have the A5 Wagyu.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge when working with influencers, especially in 2020?
Biggest challenge. I would say the biggest challenge is just being able to get them a spot due to the pandemic, and especially with our reservations being so packed, finding a timeline that works for both parties.
Okay. How much time, you're probably not doing much of it now that you're 2 months into it, but how much time were you putting into doing influencer outreach in the beginning?
That's mostly Jeslyn. She handled that, my wife. She didn't put too much time. I want to say like maybe a few hours a week.
Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good return on investment right there.
Yeah. And then once they come to the restaurant, we just get them a seat and we just talk to them, catch up, and then we get them, have them a good experience.
So you've been doing this for a few years now, so you have a pretty established network of influencers that you can reach out to.
Mhm.
But let's just say hypothetically, a restaurant owner who has no network like you do, and he wants to do outreach. Uh, what should he be researching on IG or any other platform to find these influencers? Like, are there specific hashtags that they should be looking for, or something else?
Yeah, so you can just literally Google. Google is one of them. That's what I did in the beginning to get in contact with most of the influencers, that are in my network now. Is I just literally Googled, local food influencers near me, and then a bunch will pop up. It's Google. They have great algorithms,
Okay.
and I'll just reach out, and I would just pretty much cold call them or cold message them, be like, hey, my name is so and so. I'm with whatever restaurant group, and I would like to offer you a free meal, or maybe we'll offer them paid depending on how great their engagements are, and we'll go from there. And if they don't respond, sometimes they're really busy, some don't respond, but majority of them respond, and we're able to make that initial contact and build that relationship from then on. So I recommend just give them a cold message. Most of them are really great, nice, friendly, down to earth people, and they're willing to help restaurants as well.
I imagine part of it is also a numbers game. You have to reach out to a certain number of influencers just to get the momentum going. Any ballpark figure as to how many people or how many influencers restaurant owners should reach out to in the beginning?
So when I first started with Ivea for Urban Hot, I think Urban Hot Pot was the first restaurant I did influencer marketing for. I reached out to personally, I want to say about 20, not even 20, I want to say 15 local food influencers, because food influencers around the suburbs are kind of hard to come by. So I reached out to 15. Out of the 15, I want to say 12 responded back and 12 came through. So it's a pretty good figure. So it's about like 80%.
That's over 80%. Pretty good. Yeah. I was
Um,
expecting maybe 50%, but 80 is pretty damn good.
yeah, I mean, most of them are pretty, I reached out to ones that aren't like, they don't have like 1 million followers or anything, not like super crazy, but still it's a great start. And some influencers, and I reached out to micro influencers too. And micro influencers are those who only has maybe only a few thousand followers as to tens of thousands. And they're more likely to, reply back because they want to grow their followers and have content as well.
Totally agree about that. Is there any way for you? I mean, I'm a data guy, so I'm always trying to measure everything in my advertising and for my clients. Is there any way once they've come and they've kind of promoted the restaurant, is there any way for you to measure success for each influencer? Like, can you figure out who the top 3 influencers were for that promotion? Or do you even care?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on which project. So like, let's say for Urban Hot Pot, there was, after the influencers came, I mean, we saw a jump in sales. I want to say like 30% increase, which is great. We had all the influencers come in one day. They post within a week and a half. And from then on, like the next 3 weeks, there's a spike in sales. And that's during the pandemic too, right after the first reopening from the shutdown. And that was only mostly, I think it was carry out only at the time. Yes, it was carry out only at the time. So you see a 30% spike in sales for Urban Hot Pot, which is great,
Yeah.
And for Gyuzo, it's kind of different because, we've only been open for 6-7 weeks. And during those 6-7 weeks, our sales have been consistent. We don't do any carry out. So we can't really measure that yet.
Okay. Any traps that restaurant owners should look out for when dealing with influencers, other than the fact that we're dealing in a world of bots?
That's pretty much it. Just watch out for those fake influencers. There's ones that that buys fake followers, or their engagements are just really low and they want to try to charge you a few $100 when their engagements don't reflect their value. So just make sure you actually look at their influencers posts, see how much engagements they're getting in terms of comments and likes, and just make sure you don't get ripped off.
So obviously right now you guys are temporary. I'm actually looking at your Yelp profile right now. You guys are temporarily closed until January 15th. What's the future look like for, let's say, the next 2 or 3 months in terms of marketing and outreach? Or are you just committed to just providing good service, and that's basically the marketing plan?
Of course, we're gonna do marketing on top of that. So our marketing plan for the next 2 to 3 months is right now is just constantly post stuff on Instagram and our social media, because that plays a role into their algorithm. If you stop posting, Facebook, Instagram will know that, and they lower your ranking. I'm sorry about that. They lower your ranking on the algorithm list. So we're going to continue to post things, great content that we can. And we're going to reach out to influencers again once we reopen, so we can, so people know that, hey, we're open again, we're back in business. And that's pretty much it for the short term, the next 2 to 3 months. We're not going to do any paid advertising until, we really need to.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, because me, I'm primarily a paid advertising guy. Has that ever worked for you in the past? Or did you do any of that in the past as we wrap up?
Yeah, it can work. It depends what kind of paid advertising you're doing, whether you're doing Google AdWords, Facebook, Instagram, or any of the social media platforms. So what I noticed is that what works efficiently, not even for restaurants, but in general, if you do a promotion on a certain ad or a post, and in that post, you give some kind of incentive for them to come to your restaurant or buy your product. If you're e-commerce, you give them a discount or, something free in return for, doing business with you. So that's what I noticed. You get a higher engagements if you provide like some kind of incentive.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things I've always said, especially if you're advertising on Facebook, is you really have to have what I refer to as a wow offer, as opposed to a mediocre offer. Like a mediocre offer for me would be if a restaurant owner said, hey, we're just launching 10% off if you come in during the next week. And for me as a consumer, I'm kind of like, I'll pass.
Yeah.
It's only 10%.
Yeah.
But if you sat there and said, hey, 50% off this Tuesday for the first 100 people for lunch, I think that's a much better offer, and you'll get more word of mouth going with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that's definitely one of the strategies most restaurant owners could do is of course you're going to lose money in the short run, but that's a great strategy for the long run. I would recommend that, especially if you have a lot of competitors in your area. Let's say if you're, one example, a sushi restaurant. I would do that if I was opening a sushi restaurant, because there's so much competition, or a Chinese carryout. But Chinese carryout don't do any advertising because it's Chinese carryout.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So this was a really great interview. I appreciate the time that you gave. So that was a very productive interview that I had with Gary. There's quite a few takeaways that I got from it, but I think the biggest takeaway that I got was influencer marketing doesn't necessarily have to be very time-consuming and very expensive if you do it right. I think what Gary does better than most people who do influencer outreach is that he understands it's a relationship building process rather than being transactional. So he's always trying to keep in touch with them. And when he does finally get a commitment from the influencer, he does everything he can to make sure that it goes off without a hitch, because he knows that a bad experience with the influencer can be a bad experience on the restaurant as well, and he doesn't want that. And then number two, he understands how to identify the really good influencers from the fake ones, if you know what I mean. As we discussed in the interview, there's a lot of bots out there. There's a lot of people out there who are pretending to be influencers by using various software that can gain them likes and engagement, but he's very good at weeding out the pretenders from the contenders, if you will. Let me know what your experience has been with influencer outreach. Has it been positive? Has it been negative? Let me know in the comment section. For those of you who actually live in the Rockville, Maryland area and you want to give his restaurant a try, I'll leave links in the description below to his website and his various social media handles. That way you can support him. I'm sure he could use all the support right now as he can get. With that said, I'm signing off. Again, my name is Dean Hua. I'm a digital advertising strategist focused on paid media lead generation notification, either Google, Facebook, or YouTube, and the content on this channel reflects that. If you like this sort of content, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye. Hey marketers, Dean here. So if you're new to this channel is focused on digital advertising and marketing. If you want to keep improving your marketing game, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, like, and bell icon. It's the best way to get notification of new content by yours truly. Plus, it helps with the algorithmic thingamajiggy that YouTube does. Don't ask me what it does. It just does. As always, stay curious.